We constantly focus on the present and the future. We worry a lot about what will happen in a day, a week, or a month, forgetting that the answers might be hidden in what we usually ignore. When was the last time you really thought about the past? The history of your family, your city, or even your country? I will never forget the morning my mother came into my room and told me that the war in my country had begun. When I returned to school after a long break, I felt incredibly happy. But this sugar-sweet feeling didn't last long, because the day started with a history class. This subject I enjoyed the least, or more accurately, I used to hate the most. Despite the fact that I experienced history firsthand, when I saw missiles shot through the building from my window, I still believed that we live in the here and now. So why do we spend so much time in the past, learning outdated information from textbooks? Raise your hand if you have ever hated history. I kept telling myself that I didn't care about history, but deep down I still wanted to succeed. Then my teacher walked in and broke everything I expected. No open page 30, no memorizing paragraphs. Instead, he offered something different to me, the chance to earn the final grades through a research project. I had no idea what a research project was, but I said I'm in. When it came time to choose topic for it, my teacher suggested genealogy. Once again, I agreed, and only later they looked up what it actually meant. That was the beginning of everything. I missed my grandparents more than ever, spending hours listening to what they had gone through over the years. I also went through old documents kept in family drawers and looked at faded family photographs that carried a scent of dust, yet somehow felt like home. Those frames were being with faces from different times, such as the Holocaust and the Second World War. Each one showcasing a story of a different generation and its struggles. I realized when I wasn't working on a research paper, I still saw history as something pointless. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. It was a silent problem in my classroom, or even across the entire school. Thus, what's wrong with history classes? Some might say that it's just because of the inefficient school system. While it can partially be true, I'm certain that we need to dig deeper, so let's have a look. Firstly, history as a school subject is often reduced to memorizing isolated facts, dates, and names, tested in ways that don't really show if students actually understand the material. Think about this. According to an article titled "History is Boring," around 41% of students say that they have little to no interest in history. That's nearly half of those surveyed. As a result, many students simply cram information to get good grades, only to forget it soon after. At first glance, this might seem quick and harmless, but in reality it does something far more dangerous. We become observers, not active participants. Secondly, many teenagers see history as something trendy, because today most of us prefer to focus on job-oriented subjects that might seem more useful for our future. A Medium article explains that this might create a generational gap with their ancestors, making history, including first-hand experience, feel distant and disconnected from their lives. As a result, people lose sight of how the past has shaped who they are today. So, let me ask you, what do you really know about your identity that began long before you were born? If that's a difficult question, you are not alone. I struggled with it too. But ignoring this comes at a cost. It weakens our civic engagement, it increases the risk of repeating past mistakes, and most importantly, it erodes our sense of belonging. And this isn't just my opinion, as the article Why History Matters makes clear that history gives us a perspective we need to become active and responsible citizens. Before I share the antidote, let me ask you something. Do you want to drift through life without a direction or move forward knowing where you're going? Because without history, we are like ships without a map. And with that, we start to understand where we are and where we are heading. So let me show you how history can become exactly that. You and I might not have enough power to change the entire educational system, but we can begin with reframing our perception of history. Start simple. Pick up your phone and call your grandparents. Invite them for a cup of tea. Ask about their personal story, what they lived through, and the moments in history they experienced firsthand. But even this, you gain something priceless. You begin to reveal your own story and discover what has shaped your present across the years, making the process of learning history far more meaningful and exciting. Your next step. At your next history class, suggest your teacher turn one of the lessons into a crisis game based on the topic you're studying. It could be the Second World War, where you take on the roles of global leaders making fateful decisions. Or the French Revolution, where you force to decide what justice really means. Or the Cold War, where you stand on the edge between peace and disaster. Or just about anything you're studying. The main idea of this approach is that you need to know the context, what happened before and after. And that's exactly what turns learning history into a fun game that leaves knowledge in your mind and satisfaction about the process in your heart. Learning history cannot change the world on its own, but it can change the way you see the world. It helps you understand the past, shape your present, and most importantly, make better choices for the future. Because at the very least, you know exactly what not to settle for. So let's begin today, because when you truly learn, care, and connect, you don't just gain historical knowledge, you gain power to change what hasn't even happened yet. Thank you so much for your attention.